Hello and welcome to Salmon's Pizzeria, your slice of Scottish football. Hopefully this will go better than the first time we've just tried it when I've smashed the mic about everywhere. This one's going to be amazing. I'm literally waited for this podcast for so long, and the day of the pod, I've got ill. So not only have you got to put up an English accent, you've got to put up a bit of a cold as well. Delighted to say today I am joined to look back over a pretty let's say dark affair in the Germany match, but we'll try and get some joy out of it if we can. I'm joined by Alex and Jenna. Alex, how are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good, thanks. Been hogging the Salmon's Pizzeria limelight a little bit, but I'm obviously never going to say no to appearing again.
Yeah, well, it was hard to round them up for the discussion on this one, but I am delighted to say for the first time as well, we've got Jenna on. Jenna, how are you doing?
I'm not bad, yourselves.
Apart from the cold and the result, but yeah, we're gonna try and pick the bones a little bit of this Scotland Germany match. Lot of optimism going in, Alex, and I felt like after the last Euros, listen, I think it was a bit of a mixture for me last Euros that I was happy we were back and we were back on the grander stage, but also the whole COVID side of things didn't feel like a proper Euros. We missed the World Cup. We come back for this Euros, and it felt, although the form wasn't great going in, it did feel like spirits were very, very high and that we could really do some damage. I was very confident going into the Germany game, despite their squad. Thought they weren't in the best form like ourselves and that we could nick something. Just before we start picking the bones, what was your sort of thoughts leading up to the game?
Yeah, well, I'd kind of gone with, I thought it was going to be a closer game than that, but I was hoping and praying that it was going to be a much better performance than we saw. But I just thought if we got it right, if we could frustrate them and do things that we needed to, then it could have been a close game. We could have maybe even got a goal and made them worry a little bit. But I wasn't too worried if we didn't get a result ourselves. You know, it's the hardest game in the group, and they are one of the favorites. They're the hosts. They have to put on a show. So I did think, it's a free hit to an extent, but we also had to go out there and make sure that we didn't get embarrassed for our own sake. So it was I think you look at Germany's squad and, with a little bit of hindsight, it's maybe one to take on the chin and look forward. But yeah, at the time and before the game, you were definitely expecting a lot more than we saw.
Yeah, Jen, I mean, just sort of bringing that to yourself as well. Do you sort of echo what Alex is saying there? I mean, I didn't even really think about the likes of Wirtz and Musiala before the game, and it wasn't until you saw how devastating they were that maybe, I know myself, probably didn't put enough respect, which sounds weird on being Germany, but maybe didn't put enough respect on Germany's name and the players that they possess, certainly going forward.
No, definitely. I deliberately didn't look at anything to do with Germany before going into the game. I had blind optimism, but I knew deep down we weren't going to realistically get anything from the game. If we were lucky, we might have got like a 1 each, a 2 each draw at most. But obviously going into that first game, as you were saying, it was our first proper Euros, if you want to call it that, in a long time. You want to hope for the best, but to be honest, they absolutely annihilated us. There's no other way to put it.
No, absolutely, Alex. It was just the start. You're expecting the nerves, aren't you? I mean, what was your thoughts on the lineup itself? There was a lot of talk early on about what we would do. Listen, we're lacking right backs. We know that we have had a lot of injury problems. Even Hickey covering out there, he's injured as well. It seemed that Steve Clark tried Ross McCrory in the warm up, so didn't know if that was going to be the case. He went for Tony Ralston, natural right back, so you could understand. No Billy Gilmore either. What was your sort of thoughts when you saw the lineup? And obviously we have hindsight, so we are going to know that okay, it didn't work. But were you worried going into it when you saw the lineup at all?
When I saw the lineup, I did think going forward there just wasn't an awful lot. Because even with Christie kind of in that 10 role, and then when we're defending, Christie and McGinn are kind of like wide central midfielders, but in there they push in and they sit behind Shea Adams if we attack. So I thought that that probably wasn't the best choice anyways. I just thought it needed a little bit more width if we were going to do that, or it needed to be a lot more compact in the midfield, maybe just sit with a 3 and then 1 in front or 2 up top if we were going to look for the long ball like we did. Billy Gilmore was definitely the one that was missing, and that as well gives the freedom to Scott McTominay when Billy Gilmore's in there, because he's so comfortable on the ball. He can move it forward. He's good between the lanes, and also he's just a footballing brain. He's got a footballing brain on him. Nothing against Callum McGregor, because he does normally give you a 7 out of 10 consistently in a Scotland shirt, but he just looked way out of his depth. And as for the Ralston situation, you kind of maybe look at it with a little bit of pity for Steve Clarke, because his best 2 in Hickey and Patterson are out. So he's stuck with not the best stuff. And it was definitely not the right game to, say, for example, go with more of attacking fullbacks or wide midfielders in the likes of James Forrest. So Ralston on paper was probably the best option, as he's maybe a little bit faster than Ross McCrory, but that was definitely a position that worried me. Looking at the back line, I don't think I was, you expected to see Robertson, you expected to see Tierney, you expected to see Hendry and Porteous. It was to be expected, but I was maybe a little bit more hopeful that we would start positively, but instead we went the other way and ended up bringing on Gilmore and when the game was already done.
Yeah, Jenna, and I'll bring the sort of Billy Gilmore conundrum to yourself then. I mean, Alex did touch on that. Listen, he is a comfortable player on the ball. We know this. You've seen him enough for Brighton and Scotland. To be fair to Steve Clarke, it's something I didn't really know because I think the games blur into one at times. But he does tend to drop Billy Gilmore for the bigger ties. Spain in the qualifiers, Norway in the qualifiers. Gilmore didn't start those games, so it's Spain arguably is the best performance I've seen in 20, 30 years from a Scotland team. So you could understand maybe Clark's thinking, especially against an outfit like Germany where they attack so much. But again, hindsight comes into it. Is he your player? I know going forward, everyone's probably going to have Billy Gilmore in their teams, but could you understand Steve Clarke's thinking there that maybe without the ball so often, Billy Gilmore maybe is a bit nullified?
I can see the thinking for it, especially since, as you said, he was dropped for the bigger games in the qualification campaign. But overall, we were screaming out for him throughout the full game. He came on far too late, I think. Even if he just gave him a chance, play the first 45, take it from there. Again, as you keep saying, benefit of hindsight, we can say that looking back now. But you could tell we were needing someone that had that creativity, someone that isn't afraid to push and go forward. We were lacking that the full game, it felt. And even when he did come on, our confidence was shaking already. We knew we weren't going to pull it back. So it seemed a bit of a waste of a sub, but it was more, right, okay, we'll bring him on now just to see what happens, when really he should have been there from the start.
Yeah, no, I think Jenna raised a really good point there, actually, Alex, because the subs that were made, and listen, I want to go through the game a little bit, and we will touch on the moments, but Billy Gilmore coming on when he did, Lawrence Shanklin after we sort of withdrew the striker at that point, and then we went back to putting a striker on at whatever it was, 3-4-0 down. What do you just think it was a bit of a catalogue of errors from obviously the players, but from the management and the substitutions, everything that went into that game, just everything that could go wrong basically did go wrong?
Yeah, I think without even looking at the players, you could see that, it didn't matter which individuals were in there. You could see that we tried to go for a long ball and maybe give Shea Adams a one-on-one situation, and it didn't work because Germany have a really strong back line. In the likes of Rudiger, you're not going to get a ball over the top of him. And I doubt Shea Adams is going to beat him for pace. So we nullified ourselves in that situation. Every out ball we had was basically just another chance for Germany to put it back at us. So I think the tactics were probably naive for a game like this. And I do also think that the substitutes just weren't right. You could see that Grant Hanley coming on was just damage limitation, but for Germany, the game was already won. The second half was a training drill for them. Make sure you don't get any injuries and let's go on to the next game and do the same. But so I would have rather Shea Adams stayed on, and looking at it, I think it would have suited Ralston better anyways if we dropped to a back four and maybe filled the midfield a little bit more. So I think Steve Clarke just went a little bit naive, maybe a little bit worried that it was going to be an embarrassing scoreline and worse than it was, which it very much could have been. But it was bad enough.
Yes, it was. It certainly was. And Jenna, I mean, Alex has just mentioned the tactics there. One I do want to sort of delve into, depending on how much time we have, because it's going to be something that comes up quite often. I think now this 3-5-2 or 3-5-1-1, the formation that Clark has put in pretty much from the start. And listen, it's worked well. We went on an incredible run. Like I said, the Spain result was unbelievable. Not just the result, the performance was incredible. But it is 1 win in 10. It's a tactic that seems to be struggling, and it's a tactic for me that it was the best tactic at the time to solve the question of how do we get Tierney and Robertson into the same team, but not damage either's ability. And I think it worked for a long time. Are we maybe seeing that this tactic is starting to run its course now?
Oh, definitely. We've been found out now. That's what it comes down to. If you keep using the same tactics over and over, managers are going to analyse the squad going into games. They're going to be able to predict things, and they'll be able to open this up and look exactly what happened. As you said, yeah, it meant we can get Robo and Tierney in the same team. Brilliant. Obviously, you want two of the best defenders in Scotland to be playing together, obviously. But if that's the cost, and especially as we were saying, at one point during the game, there wasn't a real striker, and then there wasn't. Like, things like that as well. Like, what chance have you realistically got? I know we've got a lot of injuries now with likes of Dykes being out. Shea Adams was then subbed off just after half time. Like, it just seemed like a real shambles. To be honest, looking at it as a fan, it did just kind of feel as though Steve Clark ran out of options and panicked and went, we'll stick with what we know and hope it works. It didn't work. And then it seemed to be right panic. We'll bring them on. We'll take them off and just try damage control, as you said. But even then, is it really damage control if the damage has already been done?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, Alex. I want to bring the sort of tactical discussion to yourself as well. You know, is there any saving grace for this now? I don't think it's too late for Clark to change. I can't see us. We've played this for years now. We're not going to suddenly line up against Switzerland and Hungary in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 or whatever. But what is the answer for us now? I mean, long term, is it accepting that maybe we can't have Robertson and Tierney in the same team? Is it that one of them plays centre back in a 4? Because it does seem like we're starting to struggle a little bit.
Long term, I would say that I'm not so opposed to staying with this formation and this kind of tactic, because Lewis Ferguson, Nathan Patterson, Aaron Hickey are to come back into the squad, Lyndon Dykes, and that does change the team. However, the issue that we have is, bar Lyndon Dykes, Steve Clark has known these players were going to be out of the Euros. He knew that they weren't going to be there, and he had to warm up games if he wanted to try and change the tactic. Against Gibraltar, we went to a back 4, but you're never really going to be able to tell how things are going against Gibraltar when, most of, if not all of the ball is going to be spent in their half. And it's just not, it's not a good kind of a good example to go off of. And then for Finland, we went back to the 5, so it was quite obvious that that's what we were going to do in the Euros, or the 3. And it just, I think against the bigger teams, it can work. It's worked before. As you said, it's worked against Spain. It's worked against Norway. But in the big games, or in that game there, I tell you what I saw against Germany was, despite having this kind of wide formation, if you like, we were far too narrow. They were playing these big switches, and our whole team was having to drag from one side to the other because it wasn't wide enough. And for that, for us to use those kind of fullbacks or wingbacks as wide players, you need to build more of a kind of compact midfield and have it more full, so that the midfielders aren't doing everything. And then the other issue was that meant that the midfield would push forward, and there was this massive gap between the defense and the midfield. So I think there is hope, and I think long term this is probably not a big worry. But when he's seen the squad that he's going to the Euros with, I do think he could have experimented a bit more.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've given me a perfect segue there. I think in terms of, I want to touch on some of the goals. So I want to get to a particular moment. So I'm going to have to touch on the goals beforehand, and the tactics really come into that. The first goal, Jenna, it is a big switch of play. I think it's from centre back out to the right wing. Despite us being very narrow, like Alex said, we somehow give Florian Wirtz the space of Germany to just stroll in on the edge of the box. I felt a bit sorry for Ralston because he did have his eye on him the whole time, but he was at the same time, I think, in two minds whether he should step into the centre of the pitch, whether he should stay at right back. So I do have a little bit of sympathy for him. My main question of this, and listen, the formation or the tactical awareness of the players was poor. So I'm not just putting this on one player here. Should Angus Gunn stop this effort? Because it's a good effort, but he feels like he gets a whole palm behind it and it still sort of bubbles past him into the net.
No, definitely. He should have been able to block it. Look, I've looked at it back a couple of times. It was first time I missed it. I had to watch the replay when it was actually live. But even going back, looking at the highlights to try and get myself prepared for this today, like, he had the opportunity to stop it and he just wasn't quick enough, I don't think.
Yeah, Alex, I mean, echoing what Jenna's saying there, really, that is, I was sort of in a group chat of a couple of pals and saying beforehand, you know, we seem to have stuck now. Gunn is the number one in the country. I know I've seen people online sort of ask about Gordon coming back. Listen, it's probably not the time anymore for Gordon because long term it's not going to be a solution. Angus Gunn is someone that I think from Football Manager days I always thought, you know what, he's got good stats on Football Manager, so he must be decent. He comes in, he's done well for Scotland, but just that is a worry that, you know, the ball down to, you see that with goalkeepers, can be good shot stoppers, but there's sort of longer range 18-yard plus efforts down into the corners they really struggle with at times.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Angus Gunn was an upgrade, or is an upgrade on what we had before in David Marshall, and that showed quite quickly, and I think that gives us a little bit more confidence in Angus Gunn. He wasn't the only one, as you said, to have a bad night, but he didn't have a great night. I'm gonna take his side a little bit with this one, in the fact that I think he gets unlucky. You know, I think if on another day that could hit the post and stay out. So I'll maybe give him the benefit of the doubt for this first one, and I won't mention the other ones just yet. But I think Angus Gunn is better than what we have. Not just Marshall, but he is better than what we have. And there shouldn't be any conversation about the next two games not being him in goals. Maybe if Craig Gordon, albeit his age and lack of minutes because of his injury this season, if he was there instead of Liam Kelly, then I might be going, should we, shouldn't we? But I don't think there's a strong enough presence between Zander Clark and Liam Kelly to step in and fill that spot. So Angus Gunn had a bad night, but he can certainly bounce back. And I expect to see a better performance from him against Switzerland.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think anyone would deny that. Jenna, on to the second goal then. Obviously, it's the worst possible start, 10 minutes in, and you're 1-0 down. You give Germany the lift, you give the crowd the lift. Then they're just sort of going through the motions of, you know, they're enjoying their football. We're struggling to get a grip on the game. There was a bit of a malaise in Scotland from this point on. I thought we just looked completely lost, and the famous saying, isn't it, men against boys? It really did feel like that at times. The second goal comes, you know, sort of movement in the middle. I think Callum McGregor tries to win it early. He doesn't. The ball gets recycled out. Then it comes out into the box, is it Musiala in the box? And McGregor, to be fair, he's got himself back in there. But again, he sort of steps in to try and win the ball early, which you can see what he's trying to do. But listen, Musiala's world class, and he sees it coming a mile away and just turns him really, really easily. And it's a wonderful finish. There's no blaming Angus Gunn for the finish, but it was just highlighting some really poor structure and defending from Scotland that we're just not used to under Steve Clarke. It's almost one of his fortes, and I feel like if we lose that side, the structure, you know, what have we got as Scotland going forward?
Not exactly. You're right. Like, you can't fault Angus Gunn for that one. It was a beautiful finish. It happens. A good goal's a good goal. We won't blame Angus Gunn for that one. Others maybe, but not that one specifically. But overall, as you were saying, like Callum McGregor, he did try, but you've tried to win the ball early. It didn't work. Fair enough. You can maybe give him a pass for saying, well, at least he actually put the effort to try blocking. Not all the players were doing that, I felt, to be honest. But as you say as well, it was like men against boys. There was no doubt the difference in quality of players between the two sides. And that's fair enough. These things happen. Like, I'd be like trying to compare the likes of, if you want to take it to a club level, Theo Bair against Ronaldo. It's quite obvious what one would win in that one, isn't it? Like, it's the same kind of thing, but at the same time, though, if you have been picked and highlighted some of the best your country's got to offer, you have to step up to the plate, regardless of who you're playing. You have to have that belief in yourself. And just felt as though the boys didn't have that belief anymore. It didn't feel as though they had that belief at the start of the game. Didn't feel as if they had it after 1-0. Didn't feel as if they had that after 2-0. Never mind 5-1.
Can I just touch on that as well, Stu, just before you ask the next
question.
question? Is I think I absolutely agree with Jenna on the belief, and I think the one that has to be pointed out, right, and it already has been pointed out more than enough times, is Robertson jumping on Tierney and giving him the biggest hug ever for winning a goal kick 4 minutes into a football match. You know, it sets the tempo, doesn't it? So I think, especially, you know, after the first goal goes in, we look shell-shocked. But before it goes in, there's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse, and we shouldn't be celebrating goal kicks.
No, do you know, when it happened at the time, I turned to the missus and I just said, I can't believe he's celebrating that goal kick. Like, if it was the 80th minute, do you know, and we're 1-1 and he's won a goal kick, I can completely understand going crazy for it. But I think you pointed out in the group chat as well, Alex, like, not just him celebrating, Robertson jumping on his back as well, like double teaming this celebration so early in the game. I don't know. I can maybe understand they're trying to, you know, G the rest of the team up and show Germany they're up for it. But I think it probably had the opposite effect, if I'm honest.
Well, that's what I was going to say was, do you not think in the face of a Germany player who is seeing that, they're thinking, if that is your standard, if that is your level, we are going to absolutely tear you apart?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it was, like I say, it was, I think, a bit naive from Tierney, if I'm honest. But also, you know, it does happen throughout football. You do see it, and I could maybe understand what he's trying to do and the message he's trying to portray there. I don't think it worked. So yeah, it's a shame. Hopefully next time we see it is 85th minute and we're 1-0 up and he's doing it to get a goal kick. That'd be much better. Just on the second goal, Alex, I'll bring it to you. Callum McGregor, can a lot of blame be placed at his door there, or is it just it's a bit of too much quality from Germany?
Yeah, like I said, I think we just looked a bit shell-shocked. But there was such an obvious gap between the midfield and the defense, and it caused us problems all night. But that was one of the occasions, and I think Tierney steps up, but he's in two minds about it, because if he steps up, there's this massive gap kind of creates. So when he kind of steps back, the defense is then flat-footed. I don't think Porteous did Ralston any favors, and you know, then we kind of become that narrow side again. And it's brilliant from Musiala, what a brilliant player he is. But McGregor, could he do better? Maybe he should just side him down, you know. But still, a free kick in the edge of the box, you're probably quite scared of as well. So I just think in these small moments we needed to step up more. We needed to be better, because it's easy to say against Germany, give them benefit of the doubt. But the problem is, every time you give a player the benefit of the doubt is something that Germany go and clinically take. You know, they did every single mistake that we made. You know, we weren't good overall and we weren't solid, but the mistakes, every time we made a mistake, someone stepped out or someone lost the ball or whatever, we were under so much pressure, and it could have been so many. This was one of the occasions, and I think McGregor from then on played a lot worse. And I wonder if that kind of got to him, because he is a guy who you can see he criticizes himself. You know, he will be the first to tell himself when he's made a mistake. So I think that maybe got under his skin as well.
Yes. And I mean, listen, talking about giving the benefit of the doubt, Jenna, we move on to the third goal. And I hate this because we're jumping on this pod and it's so negative and such a positive sort of, you know, moment in the season where we got to get to enjoy these Euros, and it's not over. It's far from over. So we know that, and I'm not trying to be negative, but we do have to pick through the bones of it. Ryan Porteous, where do I start with this one? Ball comes in. Obviously, it's a bit of a pinball in the box. It falls to Gundogan. He's going to lever this ball home if he's not stopped. Can completely understand Porteous throwing his body in front of him. You want a player putting his body on the line. Their left leg comes around with the right leg, and he plants it directly into Gundogan's ankle. At first, thought it was a wonderful challenge. If I'm honest, I was only upon watching the replay that it looked very, very naughty. I think that's putting it mildly. What was your take on it. I mean, Stonewall red card for me.
Oh no, same. Stonewall red, Stonewall for everything like that. To be honest, he's a good defender, Porteous. I'm not going to drop something there, sorry, on my keyboard. But I rate him as a defender, yes. However, he is an absolute bomb scare. He's a red card waiting to happen at best of times. He was the same at Hibs. He's the same since he's moved down south. To be honest, every time I see him playing a Scotland jersey, I hold my breath and I get scared because I'm waiting for the day he gets sent off. And again, he just proven that there. Doing that in like the qualifiers, fair enough, you can maybe excuse it, but not when we're actually at the Euros. I know it's passionate. I know he thought, right, I need to do everything I can to stop this player. Valid, fair enough. But come on, have the sense, son. He's been playing long enough. I don't play football, but even I would know better than to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. I'll be saying the same question. It's Steve Clark said today that, listen, you only see a small little clip of what's being asked and what's being replied to. Steve Clark said, to be fair to Ryan, he's not had a red card in years, which seemed to a very optimistic way of looking at it, almost like he was owed one because he's not had one in so long. But it was just the nature of the challenge for me, and is there any saving grace behind that challenge? Was he unlucky? Was it that he was maybe the left leg wrapped around because he thought that was the better option to block the ball? I can see you shaking your head, but it was the better option to block the ball. Maybe, I don't know. We have seen it at Hibs. We have seen that petulant side of him that you think maybe matures out when he goes south, and obviously he's doing very well at Watford. He's getting brave reviews down there, and I know a lot of their fans think that he might gather a lot of interest following the Euros, but certainly not showing that side to you.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll play again at the Euros. he just it's stupid. It is stupid. And I think I get the argument of throwing yourself in front of the ball, but I wish he just threw himself in front of the ball. He didn't have to go and win it. If he gets in the way of the shot, it ricochets off him, fine. He knows in that situation, Gundogan is probably wanting to get hit, not hurt, but in that scenario, it's a lot easier for him to go, right, here's a penalty than it is for him to if he misses that chance, then wow. He just didn't do himself any favors whatsoever, Ryan Porteous. And I think, his track record doesn't help. We see that with players in Scotland, though. As soon as you make one mistake or one gesture or whatever, you carry that with you for the rest of your career. And I think going down south did do him the world of good, and he has maybe calmed down a bit, as Clark was saying and as you're saying there, but he still is this. He still just plays with his heart in his chest, and he's it's a brainless tackle. I don't see the need. And, when you watch it back and you think he puts the first foot in and he gets a touch on the ball, you think, it's probably still a penalty. But we have this new rule, which is double jeopardy, and you cannot get sent off if you are going for the ball, even if it's a denial of a goal scoring opportunity, but you are actually playing the ball. So that would have been a yellow. You watch him plant the second leg, you're thinking you have a murder trial when you go home, because that is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it certainly was. To be fair, listen, I don't see many fans defending it. There are a few, but you're going to get that in any walk of life. It's just, it was inexcusable for me. But Jenna Clark in his presser today was saying that he's given out hugs and kicks up the backside. Porteous was one that got a hug from him, and he's picked up. It's do we see him playing much further in this tournament? I don't even know what is the ban for the straight red in the Euro. Is it 2 games? Is it 1 game? I'm not even sure.
I'm not sure either. So
I have to look at that. Great research from myself, but
I'm sure it's usually about 2 games, usually.
We'll
I highly doubt we'll see. But
yeah.
if we somehow do, fair enough. To be honest, I don't know about hugging Porteous after the game. I think it would have been a kick out the backside personally, but maybe some tough love is what he needs, and the rest of the boys, like you were saying. Steve Clark did have his presser today. It is a slow one. We knew it was going to be hard, obviously. First game against the host, they have to put on a show, like we were saying this earlier. But going into the next game, we have to put that to bed, and any sort of shakiness in terms of confidence, like playing the way that we did, just full stop the tactics, everything has to get stamped out, go into the game and forget that Germany even happened. We need to forget that even happened for all the boys' sake, or else we're going to see a repeat of it happening again. We can't afford to be that embarrassed again. It's not as, don't get me wrong, it's not embarrassing to lose 5-1 against Germany. They're a great side. What's embarrassing is just our type of performance. The result itself, fair enough, but as a nation, we need to do better. If we want to be competing in the Euros or even the World Cup consistently, we have to prove that we're worthy of being there. And so far, we've not.
No, that's a great point. And I have just looked up. It's a one-match ban, but it can be upgraded should UEFA see fit. So maybe we haven't heard the last of it. Maybe we have, and they're gonna let him off with it. Just I know Grant Hanley sort of was brought on, Alex, but the one guy I wanted to highlight, which brings more into question the substitutions later on. I did think, and listen, it was a bit part, but I did think when Scott McKenna come on, he did very well in small cameo that he had to make. We certainly looked a bit more secure back there. What would be your thoughts in replacing Ryan Porteous for Wednesday? Do you think Grant Hanley gets the nod, or would you be tempted for Scott McKenna or even Liam Cooper to come in the cold? He always seems to be with the squad, but never actually play.
Yeah, I think the obvious answer for me, anyways, I'm sure Clark will see different, but the obvious answer for me is Scott McKenna. He just is a good player, Scott McKenna, and I feel a lot more confident with him there than Grant Hanley. I thought Grant Hanley's Scotland career was probably done a couple of years ago and then kind of resurfaced and was done again and resurfaced, but he's there and he's consistently there, shall we say. But yeah, I just think Scott McKenna offers more. I think he's more confident on the ball, more of a ball playing defender, and when you've got three of them back there, you need to have an out ball. So I would feel stronger and more confident with Scott McKenna in the back line. And yeah, although I said at the start I wasn't surprised with the kind of Porteous, Tierney and Hendry in the first game, I maybe would have hoped to see Scott McKenna in there because I do rate him. And I think, he had Champions League appearances this season. I know he'd kind of struggled to get into the team at Nottingham Forest, but that's not his kind of concern, his problem, because he has done quite well for Copenhagen, and I think we should see more of him in this tournament now.
Yeah, Jenna, would you agree with that? Because I'm just looking up because I don't really remember hearing much about Hanley this season. Apparently, he played 8 times for Norwich this season, so it did seem a strange one. When I saw him coming on, my first thought was that I can't believe we're not going forward back to keep Shea Adams up top. Second was, I can't believe out of those 3 centre backs, Grant Hanley's the one getting the nod. Would you concur with Alex there that for you it would be McKenna in on Wednesday, or do you see something else that we could maybe try?
No, I agree full-heartedly, to be honest. As you were saying, Grant Hanley has been quite quiet in terms of club football. To be honest, I hadn't heard much of him either as to how he'd been getting on. I assumed he must be doing fine if he got the call up. That's the way it kind of usually goes for players that you haven't heard of in a while. It's always, they must be doing no bad being called up. That's a start. But I would take McKenna over him every day, every single day.
Yes, absolutely. Now back to the negative side. Now, going through these goals a little bit, Alex. We go 4-0 down when Nicholas, is it Fulkrug? I'm going to butcher his name. Who's, I don't want to say he's having a bit of an Indian summer because I think he's only 29, but he seems somewhat. No, he's 31, isn't he? He's 31, but he's someone that certainly is just peaking later in his career. A bit Jamie Vardy like he's now 12 and 17 for Germany, and you see him coming on, and he's a big boy, and he's quite mobile for his size. He's obviously strong, and the finish. I watched it back briefly. I was getting pretty fed up at this point of watching these goals back, but the finish was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I think it was 110 kilometers an hour. That it was pretty special. I rate Fulkrug very highly, and I think of the 5 goals, this is the one I kind of cut the most slack for Scotland because they just played. They played through us. They cut through us like a knife with butter, and there was nothing we can do because they actually were just really smooth with the ball, and that's when it kind of started to look more like a training drill for Germany. I think it was just a really good goal. Nicholas Fulkrug's had a good season for Dortmund, who obviously then went on to the Champions League final, and he maybe could have had a couple of goals in that, but he looked good, and I think he'll be one of these players that you can bring off the bench and rely on 9 times out of 10, and Germany will definitely be using him throughout the tournament as they progress.
Yes, absolutely. Moving on, Jenna, to actually discussing maybe a little bit of a positive for once. We score, which I was very, very surprised at, considering we had 10 men and no real outball. The substitutions are made at this point. I think we've got the likes of Gilmore on. Shanklin comes on as well, which I was a bit worried about. You know, I rate Shanklin. I think he's a terrific finisher. He's had a bit of a hard time for Scotland, and the jury's still out, I think, on him at international level. Was a bit worried he was being thrown to the wolves here because we had no outball anyway, and I don't think Shanklin is he can hold it up, but I don't think he's the guy that's going to help us get in behind with 10 men. That said, the dynamic changed slightly, and we get a free kick. We had a free kick a little while before this, and for some reason we didn't whip it into the box. We ended up playing it short, and it went backwards, which I just thought, 10 men, just lump it in the box. It's all we've got now. We finally do put one in the box. It's a terrific ball. Bit fortunate, it comes off about 3 players on a ricochet, and finally Rudiger and into the back of the net. But we get a goal, and all of a sudden you're thinking in terms of a best third place, because listen, goal difference doesn't matter so much for first and second, but in terms of a best third place, goal difference may very well come into it. And you're thinking, if we can get out here with 4-1 with 10 men so early on, it's maybe not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, things happen later down the line, but at that point, we're probably thinking, we've maybe got away with one slightly here.
A bit, yeah. I mean, that late in the game, it does just feel a bit bittersweet, even celebrating. It's like, okay, we've scored one. It's not going to really make much of a difference. I mean, goal difference, yeah, fair enough if you're trying to think tactically about it. In terms of just enjoying the game at the time, it just felt a bit pointless. It's all right, okay, we've scored. We're still getting absolutely annihilated, but fair enough. An excuse to have another pint. Fair enough. Like, to be honest, that was my exact thoughts about it at the time. Still hasn't changed, to be honest. Talking about Shanklin, though, I'm one of those people, I think he's got every right to be included in the Scotland squad. It'd be daft not to include him. However, he has to be like the backup of the backup, because he hasn't really proven himself on an international level, both with Scotland or even like European football with Hearts in a while. He did not bad, don't get me wrong. I think he is a good striker. He just hasn't had the chance to fully prove himself on an international stage yet. Give it another season or two, see how it goes with Hearts, or if he does move, because obviously there's the rumours every other week that he's going to Rangers, is he not going? Things like that. See if he does end up going to them, see how that goes with them in Europe. It might do him the world of good, but I think as it stands now, he has to be the backup's backup.
Yeah, I'm not going to take the Shanklin discussion to Alex, because and it'll end up saying that Simon Murray should have been the starter anyway. So it doesn't really matter. On to the unfortunate 5th goal then, Alex. We seem to, like I say, maybe not done too much of a dent that can not be recovered from in terms of goal difference. Germany goes straight up the other end, and it seems almost like we're waiting for the final whistle at this point. It's just passes around the edge of the box. They don't seem to be making any sort of yardage on us, and then Emre Can gets his ball on the edge, bends it into the bottom corner, and once again, are there question marks around Angus Gunn here? Because it seems like he goes down in stages, to be honest. It's at first glance, I thought it was a good finish, but the replays I've watched, for me, he should do much, much better.
Yes, 2 people to blame for this. One is the podcast's very own Lee. He hasn't made an appearance yet, but he did say at least we drew the second half. So that was wholeheartedly his fault, but Angus Gunn does himself no favours. He has, I think his Wikipedia has been changed to Poppadom wrists purely because of that goal. So I think that's the one where you can look at it and go, yeah, he absolutely has to do better. For Germany's perspective, Emre Can was only called into the squad 2 days ago. 2 days before that game. It was a late call up, and he had a point to prove. He's not going to want to be this bit part player. He wants to come in and make something happen in this tournament. So I think he's done himself the world of good. And for Germany, another thing was there's this expectation that they make out the group. They top that group. There's no worries for them. So to make that country watch, to make them kind of pay attention, they had to go on and put out a show. So go out and put on a show, if I correct myself there. So yeah, I think there was this kind of 5-star display from Germany, but we made it as easy as we could for them, and this moment was just kind of summed that up, because we, as you said, were waiting for the full-time whistle. We almost wanted to just head down that tunnel and sleep and hope there was no nightmares.
Yeah, Jenna, I mean, Alex has summed it up perfectly. Is anything to add there? I mean, like Angus Gunn again, it's one he's going to have to forget about quickly, because we're going to need him in tip-top shape. Judging from that Switzerland-Hungary game, there's going to be a bit of basketball-style football, so we're certainly going to need him back to his best.
No, definitely. And the worrying thing for me personally is, I know we kind of touched on it briefly earlier, of the question of should Gunn start? He kind of has to. And that's not anything bad against Xander Clark or Liam Kelly. I mean, I'll defend Mother's own boys till the day I die. I have to. Someone's got to. But overall, though, Xander Clark and Liam Kelly haven't really been given a chance to shine in a Scotland jersey. I know Clark had a couple of minutes in previous games before, but they've never really had a full proper 90 minutes. I think Clark might have had one or two. I could be wrong. I know Kelly hasn't even had a sniff of the pitch at Hampden, never mind abroad, and he's not going to. I was even surprised they brought him, if I'm being honest. Not in a horrible way. I'll defend my own every single day of the week. I thought it was going to be Craig Gordon. I think Liam Kelly's there just to go on holiday, to be honest with you. But it's just that way. I mean, Angus, he has to step up, because if he doesn't, then we are absolutely getting sent home. Without a doubt, we're getting sent home if he doesn't wisen up. Because the other two, they've not got the experience. And that's not through fault of their own. That's up to Steve Clark. I thought during the friendly games we had before, even the ones just there, but the ones even before that, it could have been a perfect time to play Kelly. Like Xander Clark. I know they put on some spare goalkeepers against France, and look how that went.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. The less said about that one, the better. On to Wednesday then, Alex, as we begin to sort of bring this to an end. Switzerland themselves, I thought they looked very, very good against Hungary from what I watched. That said, they've had a bit of mixed bag themselves lately. They've got some cracking players, and Embolo seems to have come back at just the wrong time for us. But that, a couple of draws when you're looking through their qualification campaign, Belarus took points off them, Kosovo took points off them, Israel, who we seem to play every other week, took points off them. So, they're not impenetrable. Hungary certainly had them on the ropes for a little bit at 2-1. What's your thoughts going into that game and your sort of expectations?
Yeah, well, that was the worst result for us. We had to hope that. I mean, a draw was obviously the best result for us, but I think a Hungary win would have been better than a Switzerland win, because Switzerland now know a point is enough for them, and they can come away with that, and qualification is theirs. So I think Switzerland are a good side. They're good across the board. I think Hungary have the standout players like Soboslai and Orban, and the goalkeeper as well, Galachi. They have some good players, and they do have a good overall team, but I could only see it going Switzerland or draw. If there was a win, I could only see it going Switzerland, and that was slightly worrying for me, because they have this tournament experience. They have this chance where to get out of the group again for them. We're looking to do it for the first time in our history. So it's nothing that Switzerland haven't seen and done before. So they won't fear us. They'll probably be rubbing their hands a little bit, knowing the chance of qualification is right there for them. And this is probably a must win for us. As Steve Clark said, 4 points will do, and a draw maybe will do then, but we can't go into that last game needing to win yet again.
Yeah, Jenna, absolutely. I mean, same sort of question to you. And Alex is right. When Switzerland are quality across the board, Shah and Akanji at the back, Vargas in midfield. But the worry for me is when you do look at their front line, a bit like Germany, Embolo and Dua and Amdouni, who was on fire for them in the qualifiers. He's only coming off the bench at the moment for them. So if Germany's anything to go by, a team that maybe we thought we could get at, we didn't even get a chance, because their front line is so clinical that you're just constantly on the back foot. Where's your sort of mindset right now? We've had a couple of days to cool off from the Germany, so maybe not the same mindset as it would have been Friday night, but where are you sitting right now on it? Mute. You're on mute. Sorry.
Rookie mistake, but if we can at least get our draw, it's a good point to go into the Hungary game afterwards. However, the way you have to look at it as well is Alex was saying, you don't want to be going into the last game thinking, oh no, we have to win this. No one wants that type of pressure on their back. Realistically, I didn't think we were going to leave the group stages this competition. I was kind of grateful we got 2 back-to-back. And again, as we were saying earlier, the first Euros didn't really feel like the Euros properly because of COVID and it being here, there and everywhere. It wasn't a proper Euros-based somewhere abroad. But at the same time, though, I'd love to see us go out and get 3 points. I just don't see it being likely, if I'm being honest. I hate saying it, but I'm not going to lie.
Right then, let's go down to prediction time, Alex. Give me a prediction, and let's just take out one notch further. Give me a first goal scorer as well.
Yeah, okay. A first goal scorer. This is a weird one because for me, and when I was talking to Josh and Peter about this on the first episode, we kind of had this thought that the Scotland team is good enough to make it out of the group stage, and there should be more of an expectation on us to do so. And Clark has taken us so far, but maybe he's taken us as far as we can in terms of that. So I think he had a point to prove, or has a point to prove in this Euros. So for that, I think it will be this, this is the game that we need a performance. We need to show something that we didn't show in the Germany game. And I'll try and be positive. I'll say 2-1 to Scotland. And I'll go for Scott McTominay first goal scorer because I've got a bet on him to be our outright top scorer. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really tough game. Probably tougher in elements than Germany because Germany, we were just pinned back and the players probably didn't have as much to do in terms of running, etc., because they were just locked in their position. But I think this will be a really grueling fixture, and hopefully we just edge it.
Yeah, Jenna, same question. Result and first goal scorer, and maybe just some final thoughts on the game from yourself.
Ideally, I want to say 2-1 to Scotland as well. Realistically, I'm going to say 1 each with a John McGinn 87-minute equaliser.
There we go. Wow, a point will do us, I think. I know Alex says we don't want to go in needing to win, but I'd rather go in needing to win than go in on 0 points. So I think Hungary would be more than doable for a win, but we'll have to wait and see for that one. So lastly, from me, just to say thank you so much to Alex and Jenna both for joining me. It's been an absolute joy to go through it in really negative circumstances, but hopefully there's a tiny little positive at the end. We're still excited. We're still in the Euros. It's still football every day, so that's the main thing for us. We can still go on from there. You can catch us on YouTube, which this will be going out on. Will also be wherever you get your podcasts if you prefer to listen to audio, and do subscribe. Hit notification bells everywhere you can, because we've got plenty more actions and reactions coming, and interviews and giveaways. We've just given away the brand new Scotland top, and being a pizzeria, we gave away a pizza as a second place prize, and we've got plenty more to come. So do keep interested and watching. Let us know your thoughts on this one. Anything you want to see improve interview wise, anyone you want to see come on the pod, we'll do our very best to get them. But final thoughts for me is just to say, in the face of adversity of a 5-1 defeat where we're struggling for injuries, we've got Jenna saying how much she applauds all the Motherwell players and how much she'll defend them. So surely we're missing Stephen O'Donnell at right back. But that's it from us. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon.